The fury of Florence pounding the Carolina coast.
This is a powerful storm that can kill.
The storm of the century at our doorstep, delivering a 1-2 punch.
This is still a very, very dangerous storm.
Destructive winds, catastrophic flooding, deadly surge, all threatening the Carolinas. Tonight, we're getting you prepared as the storm rolls in. NBC Charlotte's live Hurricane Florence coverage starts right now.
And here is a live look from the Outer Banks at Hurricane Florence closing in on the Carolinas. We just checked and it's almost here, very close for moving into Wrightsville Beach, expected to make landfall soon. All day and into the night, it is outer bands have been slamming the North Carolina coast, and tonight the storm is impacting our viewing area. There's a tropical storm warning for Chesterfield County. And a tropical storm watch for Lancaster County. Here's a live look where Florence is located right now. You can see it's here, hammering the North Carolina coast before drifting south and then moving west. Right now, Hurricane Florence is a powerful Category 2 storm with winds whipping at 100 miles per hour. The latest data showing it's slowing down, and it's still expected to drift south and move west. And that means heavy rain for Charlotte in our viewing area over the weekend. Let's start our special coverage tonight with Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. So Brad, we've been talking about Florence for days now, and it's finally here.
Yeah, we're going to see landfall at some point overnight into the morning hours. But you mentioned the fact that it is crawling along. It's barely moving right now as it kind of inches off to the west at around 5 miles per hour. You can see that cluster of showers and thunderstorms on the north side. It's that big arm and basically branch of rain that's moving into the Outer Banks right now, which is causing most of that wind and rain that you're seeing on our imagery. So there's the updated track. Now, the interesting thing about tonight into tomorrow, because it's so close to land, we're getting an update once per hour. So this is the 8 o'clock advisory. Winds are actually down to 100 miles an hour, but as you mentioned, it's drifting northwest at only 5 miles per hour. So it's just drifting there. It's going to move towards Wilmington, and between 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. tomorrow, at some point in there, it'll make landfall. But that's a very slow-moving storm. It then crosses over Wilmington, goes down towards Myrtle Beach, passes over Florence, South Carolina, as a as a tropical storm at 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, for us, you can see what happens. It's due south of us as we go into early Sunday morning. That's when the heaviest rain is going to develop as it moves off towards our west. We're going to be right in that wet side of the storm, which is the east and northeast side. As it finally moves away, we get towards up there, maybe towards New England by Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's the circulation. There's a weak eye still forming right there off the coast. Wilmington is right there. Morehead City is right there. There's actually water all over Carteret County, and the TV station in New Bern over there actually has water up to their doors right now. You can see a couple warnings up to the north as well, as we have the eye forming right there just south of Carteret County. So it seems to be drifting towards the west. The problem is for the next 12 hours, they're going to be in this weather. It's really not in a big hurry to move off to the west. You see Charlotte there. Some of the outer rain bands starting to affect areas towards Richmond County, Chesterfield County. Those are the counties that are under the tropical storm warnings right now. A couple flash flood warnings out there as well, as you see the airflow around this system. It's a powerful hurricane, even though it's moving slowly. The bigger concern for us isn't going to be the wind. It's going to be the rain as we go through the weekend. We are now in that real high risk for flooding. In fact, we had to update our flooding threat now all the way up to the extreme threat. And coming up, I'm going to show you some of these rainfall totals over the weekend, which could be breaking records for the Charlotte area, guys.
All right, Brad, thank you.
Tonight, the North Carolina coast already getting pounded by wind and rain. Here are live pictures from Morehead City. You just heard Brad talking about a lot of wind out there. Florence turning off the coast, getting ready to make landfall. Those bands of rain have been coming on shore all day long, and a deadly storm surge will follow.
NBC Charlotte's Evan West joining us live from Wilmington, North Carolina. And Evan, the city has had several days to prepare, so are they ready?
They say they are. They claim they are. We'll find out later whenever she finally arrives. Right now we've had a break in the rain. We've basically had rain all day out here, but wind is really the big story. It's picked up significantly in the last hour. I want to take you to the edge of the water where you can see some light on some cattails, some grass coming out of the marsh there. It is just absolutely whipping around and whipping myself and photojournalist Mike Hansen here. We've had some significant rain though today, and that's going to be a big story here in Wilmington. That's what everyone is projecting. The National Weather Service says some 30 to 40 inches of rain could fall here. Of course, power outages already occurring. They've seen power lines down in downtown Wilmington. We are at a safe location. We want to stress that, but the wind just now really starting to pick up here in Wilmington. Reporting live, I'm Evan West. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
So, Evan, we saw your picture on social media at the Waffle House, so we know they're open, but are all the other businesses shut down in town?
They are shut down, sir. I'm sorry, I just lost my IFB. I think you said that the Waffle House is open. That's the only place open, and amazingly enough, they told us earlier today that they're anticipating losing power, and after they lose power, they're even going to stay open. We said, how are you going to stay open? Our waitress, Desiree, told us that they have lanterns.
Those people at Waffle House, they never stop, not even a storm. Evan West reporting live. Thank you, Evan. North Carolina's Outer Banks hammered today by wind and heavy rain. Highway 12, the main road throughout the Outer Banks, flooded in many places. Bands of rain hitting the coast all day long. The barrier islands beaten down as well, and the storm is just getting started.
Reporter Robert Boyd is live along the highway near Hatteras Village. So, Robert, give us an update on the conditions out there.
Well, it has been a wet, wild, windy day out here near Cape Hatteras. First of all, obviously, we've got Hurricane Florence, and then around 6 o'clock this evening here in the Outer Banks, we had a tornado warning, which just added more wind and rain. I'm wondering what's going to be next, an earthquake? Now, right now, I'm standing on Highway 12, which is the only road in and out of Hatteras Village from the rest of the Outer Banks. It has been completely shut down since about noon today because the water, the Atlantic Ocean, just keeps pouring on over these sand dunes, which protect the road usually from the water, and it's just become too dangerous for cars to pass. A lot of standing water on this highway. In fact, the wind and rain has been so heavy that we saw a boat shipwrecked out there over these sand dunes into the shore. Fortunately, no people on board. We think it broke away from a nearby marina, but still just pushing big, heavy-duty things like boats all over the place. Now, more inland at Nags Head, it's kind of a case-by-case basis depending on who you talk to. Some homeowners are more worried about the wind causing tree limbs and things to fall into their home or go through their windshields, that kind of thing. While other homeowners are more concerned about the flooding and water getting into their houses.
All right, Robert, thank you so much, and stay safe out there.
Okay, I thought we were going to go to a soundbite. I guess we are not, but we talked to...
All right, thank you for that report tonight in South Carolina. Millions bracing for impact. Here are live pictures from Myrtle Beach from EarthCam, where Florence is expected to hit before moving inland on its way to Charlotte. In NBC Charlotte, Savannah Levin's joining us live from the South Carolina coast.
So, Savannah, you arrived yesterday. How's it looking out there now?
Honestly, Sarah, it's deserted. You know that pit in your stomach feeling you get when you know you're about to get some bad news? That's kind of how we're feeling in Myrtle Beach right now. The mandatory evacuation came down from the governor a couple days ago. It seems like many people heeded those warnings. He says 400,000 people evacuated from the South Carolina coast, and honestly, I can see that. I mean, businesses are boarded up. You can see the wind is coming in, but businesses, homes boarded up. It seems like really a lot of people heeded these warnings and got out. For those who did stay, there is a mandatory curfew underway right now. Started at 7 o'clock. That's all of Horry County. So there's a reason you don't see anyone but us on the beach right now. Of course, we did get permission to be here, but really kind of a ghost town, very eerie feeling, that pit in your stomach feeling. We've had a few bands of rain come in so far, but right now it's just kind of windy. The storm is right to the northeast. So let's look right. I mean, it's dark, so you might not be able to see too well, but you can just see it's just a vast darkness out there. The winds have been picking up. Certainly very concerning. Not many people staying. Those who I did speak with said they just want to be here with their homes. They're obviously concerned, they're scared, they're worried, but all they can do now, hopefully the smart thing, is just bunkering down. We're expecting power outages for sure, at least. We're going to get some storm surges that are going to be taller than I am. I mean, look how low the tide is right now. Let's pan from the tide of the ocean to the coast there. I mean, this is going to be way past that. We're expected it to even be across the street from here right now. So really just preparing in every way we can. The governor earlier in a press conference this evening said that people should be prepared on the coast to be without power for a week, possibly more. And the hospitals are closed. They're going to call in their emergency folks if the winds get too bad, like 40, 50 miles an hour, which we are expecting to. So the folks here really just kind of left to their own devices. We're going to be hunkered down here to bring you all of the latest, of course, on air and online, WCNC.com. For now, reporting live in North Myrtle Beach, I'm Savannah Levins. I'll send it back to you in studio.
Savannah, really quickly, I know you've been there for 24 hours now. We've seen some of our other live shots with other reporters in different locations. We've seen the wind pick up, and I'm wondering, have you seen a difference in the last 24 hours in the surf where you're standing?
sorry, Fred, I just lost you a little bit towards the end. Have we seen what?
Have you seen a difference in how rough that surf is in the past 24 hours? It looks pretty calm compared to the other reporters we've seen.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where we're watching what's happening on the North Carolina coast right now, and it's, I guess, good because we're seeing kind of what we can expect, and we know that that's moving our way. I have seen a difference. I can answer that question. I mean, when we got here, it was a beautiful sunny day on the beach. The winds have picked up. The surf has gotten a little bit rougher, and the people who are out here like, no, man, we've got this, have left. I mean, there were people waiting until this morning to make a game time decision, and they decided this morning to leave once those first bands of rain came in. I think it kind of hit people a little bit more, Fred.
Yeah, probably the best wise decision to make at this point. Savannah, you stay safe. We'll come back to you in a minute. Thank you for your report.
Well, just south of Myrtle Beach in Charleston, families are on alert as Hurricane Florence moves in.
Strong winds and heavy rain moving into the area very soon. Our reporter Ryan Kruger joining us live from Charleston. Ryan, Charleston is a beautiful city with a lot of historic homes. What are they doing to prepare?
There's a whole lot of work that goes into that, that's for sure. We've seen some pretty incredible attempts to try to protect these old historic homes. One guy did tell me a lot of the sandbags they're using, folks are using them incorrectly, so he's really worried about what's going to happen there. But the real story tonight in Charleston is this sort of sense of unease. We all see all the other reporters you have more than 100 miles to the north. They're getting battered. The question tonight here in Charleston is, what is Florence going to do after it makes impact about 100 miles north of us? What's it going to do as it starts to make its way south? We'll show you some video that we shot earlier today. You'll see that folks were out trying to protect their homes. Today was a good day for it, beautiful weather. Others were just out trying to take in the sights. It's going to be one of the last few days they're going to be able to have one of these beautiful views for a while. Local meteorologists telling me their biggest concern is going to be storm surge. They are predicting right now anywhere from 2 to 4 feet, which if that is the case, that will definitely take the Charlotte or the Charleston Harbor over the banks, and that could definitely flood the downtown area, the Battery, the homes and businesses that are there. But in speaking with residents, a lot of them tell me they plan to stick it out. They think they're prepared, but back in their mind, they still fear the unknown.
Yeah, it's just the back and forth, not really knowing is the hardest part for us, because in this waiting game too. As far as what's it going to do, when's it going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, it's everybody has to take their own safety in hand, and I think we all have an exit route to take if necessary.
The National Weather Service says we are under a hurricane watch as well as a tropical storm warning. They tell me that they do expect tropical storm force winds as early as tomorrow morning, with rain picking up in the afternoon. And then from then on, it will just get progressively worse for the time being. That is the scene in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm Ryan Kruger. Back to you.
Okay, Ryan, thank you. Still to come, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich will break down one of the deadliest things about the storm. NBC Charlotte's special coverage of Hurricane Florence, storm of a lifetime, continues after the break.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do that yet. No, it's fine. Oh, I didn't do it. Laura? Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, I don't know. Secretly helpful. You didn't do it. I didn't do it. Did Amy do it at home? Normally she'll let us. I didn't hear from her about it. Normally she'll let us know. It's like, no, I believe you, Ryan. That's what happened. I don't want to jump to anything. I asked him a couple questions to do them. Why don't you do this? She messed out. Oh. Yeah, yeah. So we were wondering. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, okay. Also, that's cool. I'll turn off the audio. Yeah, the audio's off, so I'll turn it back on once we're back on.
She's gone on her best trip. She was here today. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, what's with the Charleston? But obviously, that was your great. So she's going back to where she's going to Ohio. She's bad. She's kind of sad about that.
And strong winds. And tonight, we're already seeing the storm surge impacting the coast.
Take a look at this video into our newsroom from North Topsail Beach. This is in North Carolina. You can see the water pouring from the coast into those homes. A heartbreaking scene for those families and homeowners on the coast. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich joining us now from the First Warn Storm Center.
Yeah, I've been just looking at some reports over here, and we just saw one of our local TV stations that we know in the New Bern area. They were forced to evacuate as water was rising into their station. They're in New Bern, and think about how far away that is from the center of the storm. You know, you're way up here, basically at the mouth of the river there, where we're getting that surge up the river and then water coming downstream. We're still getting a little bit of an eye wall showing up there. It's much clearer on the radar. You can see the circulation there, and there's the flood warnings up towards Carteret County. That's not too far from where the station is being evacuated right now. All of this rain heading towards Evan West. Now he's here. You saw how rough the conditions were. That's about 75 miles away from the eye still. So he's going to be in that for a while. And this is the western side of the storm, which is actually the weaker side of the storm. The northeast and east side, in the northeast quadrant we call it. If you take the storm and kind of slice it into fourths, that upper right hand corner is where you have the strongest winds that'll move it in. And speaking of that, you can see the winds in the Outer Banks. These are the current wind gusts. Cherry Point Naval Air Station there, 81 mile per hour wind gusts here in the last couple of minutes. Over there towards areas going down into Wilmington, we're getting 66 to 65 mile an hour winds right at the coast. And even inland areas, we're starting to see the gusts come up. Even around the Charlotte area, if you step outside right now, you're going to see a pretty good breeze straight out of the northeast. We've got some winds gusting between 25 and 30 miles per hour. That will only increase during the overnight hours. In fact, take a look at the winds going into tomorrow morning. By the time you wake up, we could see wind gusts in Charlotte at 9 o'clock in the morning around 30 miles per hour, and that certainly is going to make it feel kind of breezy during the morning hours tomorrow. Now the Futurecast winds on the coast, that's what we're getting hammered with right now. Those winds will be moving off towards the west, and the winds will impact part of our area. Not only the winds, but the rain that we're going to see over the weekend will be a big part of that. For more on the watches and warnings we have in effect, meteorologist Aisha Scott joins us now. And Aisha, we've got all kinds of different advisories in effect, don't we?
Oh yeah, we've got pretty much everything, almost anyway. Here's a look at the flood watch that we do have. That goes into effect right now until Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. And you'll notice here, it includes the bulk of our viewing area, with the exception of Ashe County, Watauga County as well, not in that flood watch at this point, but we're going to keep these updated certainly as we go over the next couple of days. Also, I want you to take a look at these watches and warnings in terms of the hurricanes. So we've got even tropical storm warnings stretching all the way up to the Virginia Peninsulas, all the way down to Charleston, Georgetown right now. So we've got hurricane watches, tropical storm watches and warnings as well up and down the coast. Now closer to home, we do have that tropical storm warning in effect for Rockingham. That includes Chesterfield, also into Patrick. And then the yellow that you're seeing here, that's a tropical storm watch. That does include Lancaster, also back towards Great Falls as well. So we're going to continue to watch Florence very, very closely, because again, as we go over the next couple of days, things will change big time. Now, Brad, what are we expecting in terms of our local effects?
Yeah, the local effects, the winds, you saw from there from Aisha showing us the winds that'll be an issue. But to me, and really this should be the number one concern for most of us, it's going to be the rain. Now, this is an outlook that is put out similar to our severe weather outlooks. You know how we do the slight, moderate, and enhanced risks, and we often have the low, medium, and high. Well, this is put out for flood threat, and this gets put out in 1, 2 day, 3 day increments. This was issued this afternoon, putting Charlotte and points to the southeast, that area in kind of purple, in the extreme risk for flash flooding. Why are we going to see that extreme risk? Watch the center come ashore. So this is our Futurecast. Tomorrow afternoon, not much rain. Most of tomorrow, it's just going to be breezy. But as we get into tomorrow night and early Saturday, we're going to start to see this rain band develop on the north side of the circulation of Florence. Now, it'll still be a tropical storm weakening to a tropical depression, but that rain starts to move in by early Saturday morning. I'm talking 1 o'clock in the morning. But watch this heavy rain band as it pivots into the Charlotte area and then sets up shop somewhere in our area on Sunday morning as well. So Saturday night into Sunday morning, the heaviest rain sitting right over Charlotte into Sunday afternoon. So you get an idea, that's Saturday night into Sunday, we're looking at the potential for some record-breaking flooding. So just to give you an idea on the timing of all this, we are going to see some winds gusting to 40 miles per hour starting tomorrow through Saturday. But the flash flood threat, that to me is what we'll have to watch as we go into Saturday and especially Sunday. That's at our highest level right there. Tornado threat will peak on Sunday, and because of the wet ground and the breezy conditions, we're certainly going to see some trees come down. And just to show you what some of our modeling looks at as far as amounts of rain, check out some of these totals. There's definitely going to be a heavy band setting up in here, and some of these are near 8, 9, 10, 15 inches in Rockingham, 16 in Cheraw. That's only through Sunday at 4 o'clock. It is going to be a wet setup. Coming up, though, we're going to talk about some of the other impacts as well as storm surge on the coast as we take a look at some of the impacts we're going to see across the entire state. Brad?
All right, Brad, I'm over here at the help desk, and you know we've had our experts here all week long answering your questions. You can call the number on your screen. Right now, the phones will ring, and they'll answer any question that you have. But take a look behind me, a familiar face, Colleen, working a late night tonight. Colleen, you've been answering phones this week, too. Tell me what kind of questions people are calling in with.
Sarah, one of the most common questions that we keep getting over and over, people want to know if their home is in a flood zone. The easiest way to find that out is to go to flood.nc.gov. However, if you don't have internet access, if you call the help desk, we are happy to help look that up for folks. Another thing people want to know about, of course, the shelters. Worried that if their home is to be flooded, can they go to the shelter? Certainly they can. The Red Cross primarily set those up for evacuees to come to, but if you show up at an American Red Cross shelter, they're not going to turn you away if you feel like you're in danger. And for that, you can go to redcross.org/shelter or WCNC.com. Right there, I think it's right on our homepage. We've got a list of all of the shelters in the area.
Colleen, thank you. And I know Brad also posted on his Facebook page a link where you can see if your home is in that flood zone. But again, call the number on your screen. Our experts are standing by here to answer any questions that you may have. Fred, back to you.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Still to come after Hurricane Florence moves west. It's going to drop a lot of rain in Charlotte. We have everything you need to know covered to get you ready for what could be days without power.
Testing 1, 2, Amy, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2, 1, 2. Technical 1, 2, 1, 2. Hear me?
Yeah, I have seen it.
The thing about the storm surge, I think, kind of throws people off. When they see the winds go down, they think, oh, it's getting weaker. Well, that might be for wind, but not for storm surge. In fact, often the storm surge can get worse as the winds weaken because the storm actually gets bigger. So it becomes like this giant bulldozer that pushes water towards the coast. Now, storm surge is basically water that comes up that's above the average depth of the water. So you get not only the waves, but also the persistence of those waves, pushing the water higher and higher. You throw in the fact that you got astronomical high tides, the water can continue to rise, and in this case, some of them on the beach, we could get tides up to maybe 9, 10 feet, and that puts it above the first story of most homes. So the reason we had so many evacuations along the coast, and this is the rule of thumb we've always gone with, is you run from the water and you hide from the wind. And the reason you saw all those people being evacuated was because of storm surge. It's the #1 killer in hurricanes. It's not the wind, it's the water that gets people.
I already saw a video online of a photographer that almost got swept away in that storm surge.
It's so dangerous. Once that comes in, not only is it water, but it's flowing quickly, so it's like being swept off in like a fast-moving current.
Brad, thank you. Well, tonight the danger for flash flooding going up here in Charlotte. There are now tropical storm watches and warnings for our viewing area. In the next half hour, Charlotte on alert as Florence moves west.
You know the kid, that's the same kid. He's the same actor. And his parents the same kid.
I just had a video that may take a while to take the issues, but I'll do that on the beach. I embedded his latest Facebook.
You'll see, it starts like right after he got kicked out. Did you ever see it? Yeah, well, that's a flashback. It's not the real story.
Again? No. Alright, I'll walk over there. Okay. Alright, I'll check with them right now. Can you switch it? Can you switch the coordinates once it's back on CT1? It's HTCT. Yep, CT6. I will be going that one. Yeah. For all four. It keeps going. So apparently the hotline's still on. Sure. So I have to go see it here. It's here.
That's Rudy right there, ain't it? I was trying to see.
Transfers need to be prepared to be without power for weeks. Flooding and strong winds could create a power outage nightmare.
From stocking up to preparing your home, what you need to do tonight to ride out the rest of the storm. This special edition of NBC Charlotte continues right now. This evening, the North Carolina coast already getting pounded by wind and rain. Here are live pictures from the Carolina coast. A lot of wind and rain out there. NBC Charlotte's Evan West joining us live from Wilmington, North Carolina. Evan, the city has had several days to prepare. Are they ready?
They say they are, Fred. We'll find out whenever we truly feel the actual hurricane here in a couple hours. Right now we have tropical storm force winds. We've had rain all day long. Whenever I brought you a report 30 minutes ago, it wasn't raining, but it's back now. And with this wind, it is absolutely just pelting us. So I'm going to step out of the way, grab the flashlight from Mike Hansen here and show you what this wind looks like here on the Cape Fear River, and I guess I should say the effect that it's having here. We've also got the cattail dancing. This river named the Cape Fear River, appropriately named because a lot of people are afraid what this area here on the Riverwalk in historic downtown Wilmington is going to look like whenever Hurricane Florence is done. This is the boardwalk right here. We're told by an officer that just walked by during Hurricane Matthew, this was under 2 feet of water. Matthew, of course, making landfall as a Category 1 storm. Hurricane Florence could make landfall as a Category 2. We'll find out what happens, but certainly things getting much, much worse here in Wilmington. For now, reporting live, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, Evan, if you can hear me, we have a lot of people write in concerned about your safety, our reporter's safety. Talk about how you guys are in a safe location and what you're doing out there as you're reporting on this storm.
Well, we're extremely close to the building. It's 25 yards to my left right here, so we're extremely, we want to always be close to structure. Not only that, but there's a tree over there. We avoid all kind of limbs and things that could potentially snap, so we're in a rather open area right now, and this is just tropical storm force wind, so no benches, nothing's blowing around. We've still got trash cans standing up, but once things get worse, of course, we have an actual spot where we will anchor our equipment, anchor ourselves to make sure that we bring you the news in a safe fashion.
All right, Evan, thank you, and stay safe out there. Well, Hurricane Florence is here. We can see that already tonight. The danger very real. More than 1 million people are evacuated from coastal areas, and 10 million live within areas of hurricane warnings and watches. Thank you for watching this special edition of NBC Charlotte, everybody. I'm Sarah French.
And I'm Fred Shropshire. Tonight, time is running out for families in Charlotte to prepare for this storm. It's here, and soon we'll feel the impact in the Queen City. Here's some new video into our newsroom from the North Carolina coast. You can see the storm surge already causing flooding issues.
NBC News correspondent Wendy Woolfolk joining us live from Wilmington tonight. And Wendy, Florence expected to make landfall there very soon. How are the conditions where you are?
Fred, Sarah, they have definitely deteriorated throughout the afternoon. We are feeling those outer bands with the intermittent periods of rain as well as strong wind gusts. 60,000 people already without power in this region, and that's bound to increase as she makes landfall. Florence making her presence known.
Your time to get out of those areas and storm surge inundation is coming to a close. I cannot emphasize that enough. Forecasters are basically indicating feet of rain, not inches.
Millions heeding the dire warning to outrun her ferocious arms, carrying powerful winds and potentially catastrophic rain.
We're not going to be able to come out and get you if you have an emergency while the storm is underway.
While others make the most of every moment to prepare.
There's nothing you can do here. When winds get above 3 digits, the only thing you can do inside your house is die.
With Hurricane Florence at the doorstep, officials sounding the final alarm.
If you have not left these evacuation zones, you should leave now because time is running out.
Wherever she makes landfall, Florence promises to make the record books. And while that landfall is still uncertain, what we do know, the longer she lasts here and the slower she goes, the greater impact she'll have in this region. Live in Wilmington, North Carolina, I'm Wendy Woolfolk. Fred and Sarah, back to you.
Hey, Wendy, really quickly before we let you go, a question for you. I know that we talked about the millions of people who are evacuating. Oftentimes in these storms, people who are used to living in these conditions and who have over years seen these conditions happen, they have a different mentality. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone who's deciding to ride this out?
Absolutely, we have quite a few of them. In fact, many of them were down on this riverfront today, Fred. They came out. The storm had been downgraded to a Cat 2. They decided they wanted to take one last look at the Cape Fear River behind us to see how she's faring before they decided to hunker down. They felt like the safest place for them to be was in their homes. They've done this before, and they're ready to ride her out.
Yeah, it's obviously not the best decision, but we know we see that kind of thing. Wendy Woolfolk reporting for us. Thank you for your report. A few hours ago, the National Hurricane Center gave us the latest Florence Track. The storm expected to make landfall somewhere along the Carolina coast very soon. It's then going to move west, dumping rain along the way, including here in Charlotte.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich joining us from the First Warned Storm Center. Brad, this storm will be a big rainmaker here in Charlotte.
Yeah, we're really kind of breaking this storm up into two parts. You know, the first part is what's going to happen on the coast, the big storm surge, certainly big time wind and rain. For us, it's really going to be about the rain, but it's really going to be the slow movement that dictates how much rain we see. The storm is actually moving very slowly now. It looks like it's trying to drift back to the west. The radar is doing a much better job because we get a radar sweep every minute out there. So you can see the circulation. It does look like in the last couple of frames there that it looks like it's moving off to the west. The problem with the slow movement is these rain bands are just pummeling the coastal sections again and again. And if you think about the counterclockwise spin, all of that water is being pushed back into the mouth of the Neuse, the Tar River, the Cape Fear River, not bad yet, but as we get closer to landfall, that water is going to go into the Cape Fear River. Now remember, these bands are raining inland. That water wants to go back downriver because these rivers drain back into the ocean. But guess what they run into? They run into that surge going upriver. That creates a dam, basically, and the water just backs up and it floods upriver, and you get huge surges in these rivers, more so than you would actually imagine because of it being a river. It's the water coming downstream meeting up with that surge. So there's a wider view. You can see Charlotte right there. Some of the outer bands are up in the Raleigh area. We're not going to see much tonight, and really the first half of tomorrow, I think the only thing you'll notice is the breezy conditions. Look at the wave heights being picked up by the buoys out here, 15 to 25 to 30-foot waves just hammering the coast. So you've got storm surge. These waves are on top of the storm surge, which causes additional issues. Look at the wind gusts in the last hour. Most of these wind gusts are well above 50 miles an hour, a couple over 80 miles per hour, and the center is still offshore. Remember, the west side is actually the weaker side of the storm. Can you imagine what the winds are going to be like on the north and northeast side as they move inland? In Charlotte, we've got wind gusts now 25 to 30, and those will only go up during the overnight hours. So here was the latest advisory, still drifting west with winds of 100 miles per hour, probably going to make landfall sometime around sunrise in the morning. Then it drifts to the southwest through the weekend. So it's going to be to our south for about 2.5 days. During that 2.5 day period, we are going to see a ton of rain. Coming up, we're going to show you some of those rainfall totals and some of the records that could fall as Florence heads our way.
Brad, thank you. Morehead City in eastern North Carolina is getting pummeled right now. The wind already causing damage. The storm surge there could be as high as 7 feet.
Let's go there now to NBC's Gaddy Schwartz in Radio Island between Morehead City and Beaufort. Gaddy, this is getting really intense out there from what we can see in your pictures.
Yeah, we've seen these winds picking up over the last few hours. We've really been getting blasted by these winds since about 11 o'clock. They were about 50, 60 miles an hour, and then in the last few hours, we've seen them really ramp up. In fact, we've had to fall back. We were just over there a little while ago, but you can see from where we've got that light pointed, that is an area where I can't stand up. So you've got some sustained wind gusts out here that are enough to topple trees. We know that there have been some toppled trees and branches down in some of these surrounding areas. Beaufort is just across the bay. We've lost power here at the building where we're taking shelter. In fact, the reason why I'm not blowing around so much is this. It's hard to believe, but this is actually a shelter for us. This is kind of a windbreak. But over there, where we're supposed to see Bedford, we don't see Beaufort, any of the lights from that town. And then over there where Morehead is, we're not seeing any lights over there either. So unclear at this point if they've lost power. But it does look like Radio Island has lost power. And we're expecting that storm surge, and we're expecting the tide to rise. So around 11:30 is going to be the worst of it here. Guys, back to you.
Gotti, please stay safe out there. Thank you.
All right, we still have time to get prepared for the storm, but with the increasing flood threat, you need to get your emergency kit ready right now.
NBC Charlotte's Brooke Katz here with a few items that should definitely be on your list. Brooke?
Yeah, and having that emergency kit is so key right now, getting those items locked up, getting them together right now. So what sorts of things should you have in your kit? You definitely want a first aid kit, blankets for all of the people that are in your family, water, non-perishable food, and don't forget a can opener, as well as a battery-operated radio or a crank radio, flashlight, and then if you have pets, you definitely need that pet food. A few other things to keep in mind as well. Prescription medications, you need to keep those on hand, as well as important documents. Things like your driver's license, social security card, banking information. And it never hurts just to have an extra set of car and house keys just in case. And then finally, one thing you can do now before the storm hits, you can download the NBC Charlotte mobile app. That way, if your power goes out, you can watch our coverage of the storm. We'll have all of the information for you. We even have an entire section dedicated to Hurricane Florence. But these are things that you really need to do now, especially if you have to get out to the stores and buy some things. You've got to do those pretty immediately. Fred and Sarah?
All right, good advice. Thank you, Brooke. Still to come, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich will have more on Charlotte's impact from Hurricane Florence right after the break.
I think that might have been the guy that put together an addition. He had got fired. Or, yeah, he had got fired.
Into that too.
What's kind of crazy is that's way ahead of the storm. I mean, the worst is probably going to be tonight and tomorrow. That was today's high tide. The high tide tomorrow morning could be maybe double some of these water levels. So as bad as that looks today, I think it could get a lot worse overnight into early tomorrow morning, because you can see the storm is still offshore, and basically what the storm is doing right now, it's sitting there spinning like this, pushing water towards the coast, but the water can't come back down, so the low tide will not go out tonight. It's just going to stay in a lot of these bays and inlets and the intercoastal, and so as the high tide comes in tomorrow, it gets pushed again, so it's going to rise even higher. So you're going to look at some incredible levels of water rise here along the coast. Now, the radar is nice. We're getting radar images every minute, which is a little better than our satellite images, even though as great as they are, so we can actually pinpoint the center a little bit better. We're starting to see a shift to the west. It is drifting due west, it looks like right now, which is working going well for the forecast as it moves towards Wilmington by tomorrow morning. So we could be, I'm thinking right now, here we are about 8:45-ish. We're probably 11 hours away from some type of landfall. It could happen a little bit sooner than that. Pretty broad system. There's a lot of moisture tied up into this. The one thing I'll watch going into the weekend as well, are we going to have a deeper connection to moisture down into the tropics? If that happens, the rainfall rates could literally be off the charts. There's those wind gusts that we've seen up to 80 miles an hour out there, but that's a very high high level, I should say, platform, so that's a little bit misleading there. Across our area, most of the wind gusts around 25 to 30 miles per hour. But when you wake up tomorrow morning, wind is going to be an issue. We will see some gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Now, there are numerous watches and warnings that we have in effect for our area as well. For more on what we're going to see on the coast and coming up inland, let's go over to meteorologist Aisha Scott. Aisha?
Yeah, and they've really been dealing with a lot of rain at the coast and wind as well, and that storm surge has been an issue pretty much all day since these bands have been moving onto the Outer Banks. Now, keep in mind when it comes to the worst part of a hurricane is that right front quadrant, and it's all relative to motion, so it's relative to the direction that it's actually moving, which is generally northwesterly. So you'll see here, this is still a pretty large storm. We've got rain bands stretching into central Virginia, back towards Raleigh, even into South Carolina as well. So as we take you on a little bit of a radar tour here, you'll notice those outer bands through Richmond, and then we've got some heavy rain down along the Outer Banks. It's been raining for several hours. Notice these heavier pockets near Hatteras as we stretch back towards Atlantic, Morehead City as well, and then as we work our way a little bit farther to the south, Wilmington, Surf City, it's heavy, a little bit lighter once we get towards Oak Island, but again, as this system, especially since it started to move a little bit westerly, we'll start to see those rain totals pick up certainly into southeastern North Carolina. Speaking of rain totals, just over the past 6 hours, we've seen just about 3.5 inches of rain just south of Havelock, and then just north of Atlantic, almost 3.5 inches of rain. And again, this storm is going to continue to dump rain along the Outer Banks, and we're going to be watching it pretty closely. Now, Brad, what can we expect here in terms of rain and wind as we go over the next couple of days?
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of everything. Even though the rain is going to be our #1 priority, there is going to be some wind with this system. You can see the wind gust as we go into tomorrow. We could see some of these gusts anywhere from 35 even up to 40 miles an hour. Notice this heavier band of wind here. That's likely associated with one of those outer bands. The thing about tropical systems, the wind is a little bit higher off the surface, and as the winds die down near the ground, they still stay pretty high up there. The friction of the ground actually slows them down towards the surface first. But if you can get some rain or some storminess to mix those down to the surface, you can actually get some higher winds in the heavier rain bands. And speaking of the heavier rain bands, we've got an extreme threat for flooding as we go into Saturday night and especially on Sunday. It looks like a heavy rain band is going to set up from Charlotte down to Wilmington, and that's going to put us in this corridor of extremely heavy rain. Could see 30 inches near the coast, 6 to 10 inches closer to Rockingham, and then 4 to 8 back in the mountains. And some of these upslope locations in the mountains certainly could see totals much higher than that. So here's a look at our Futurecast radar. We rerun this model every 3 hours to try to get an update on where that heavy rain band is going to set up, because that is my concern Saturday night into Sunday. So that's 5 a.m. Saturday. Notice what happens in the afternoon. The rain starts to pick up as we go into the Saturday afternoon hour, about 3 o'clock. The heavy rain band starts to park just to our east and starts pivoting into the Charlotte area by the time we wake up Sunday. So Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then most of Sunday, that rain band is sitting right over us, but it's also intersecting the mountains almost perfectly. It's hitting right in there, and this will be just a fire hose of tropical moisture moving into our region. So where that band sets up, we don't know exactly where it'll line up, but that's where we're going to see the biggest rainfall. So this graphic, I love showing this because it really hits home the timing as well as the impacts. Notice Saturday night into Sunday. So today, no issues. Friday, we start to see the impacts. Saturday into Sunday, the biggest impact right there, flash flooding, even a tornado threat, and trees could come down, mainly because we're going to see the soil get wet, and when the soil gets wet and we get 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, that will certainly be enough to start bringing down some trees, and evidently some of those trees close to the power lines could certainly bring down some power lines. So we'll be watching that throughout the weekend as the rain moves in. You need to prepare now. If you live in a flood-prone area, you got to have a plan on where you're going to go, and we need to get you to higher ground. If that's the case, make sure you're thinking ahead of time. When that water rises, you know where to go. Guys?
All right, Brad, thank you. With Florence getting here tonight, we're seeing a lot of claims about emergency apps that you should be putting on your phone.
Yeah, some claim to work even when the power and cell signals are gone. We had our Jason Puckett and the Verify team working to see if that's true.
We're getting closer to Florence making landfall, and in addition to your emergency supplies of water and food, a lot of social media chatter is now talking about preparing your phones. There are dozens of posts out saying to download one app or another. First up, let's take a look at Zello. It's a walkie-talkie app that lets you talk in community channels. And a lot of posts claim that Zello works without cell service, but according to the company themselves, that's not true. Zello needs a cell service or Wi-Fi to function. That leads us to FireChat, another messaging app. This one uses mesh networking. Now that's a new technology. It basically turns your phone into a transmitter and receiver. If you're within a certain range of another FireChat user, you can communicate using the app even without cell service. And there are a ton of other apps that have their own purposes. The Red Cross has an app. We have an app. There's Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor as well. It may seem a little overwhelming, but it's actually a good thing. As Professor Daniel Aldrich pointed out, the more connected a community is, the better off they are.
In the Gulf Coast during Hurricane Katrina and afterwards Hurricane Sandy, in Japan in 3/11, all of those disaster research shows us individuals are connected to their neighbors who know there are people living nearby who help out. Those individuals do better themselves, and the community as a whole does better as well.
So to sum that all up, if you want to chat when cell service is down, you need FireChat or another mesh networking app. All these others can definitely have benefit, but they need service. And most importantly, you do need to download them before the storm hits. Check our website for a full list of those apps. And if you have any other claims or questions you want us to look into, send us an email at verify@wcnc.com. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett, NBC Charlotte.
So all week long, we have had a hurricane help desk set up just for you, our viewers, to call in with any questions that you have. Our experts are standing by, some familiar faces here, ready to answer any question that you have. You can call the number you see on your screen, 704-329-3703. I spoke with some of them during the commercial break. They said the number one question they're getting right now from you is, am I in a flood zone? Well, they can look that up for you. You can call in, give them your address, and they will tell you if you're in a flood zone or not. They can answer any questions about shelters, what's going on in your area. So again, no matter what question you have, you can call the number on your screen, 704-329-3703. Fred, back to you.
Sarah, thank you very much. After the break, rain and a lot of it coming to the Queen City. Brad will talk more about what this means for the city and how it stacks up against history.
You got like 2 minutes? Yeah. There. Can you call up on the thing? Can you call up where you look up the rundown, the breaking news for today? You know how you know what I'm talking about. Where you see it over here, where you check stuff. I know you guys don't ever do it. The viewer, you probably have to close all, just minimize all this. This thing right here. This? Yeah. And do good some breaking news on. I just want to verbally go over with it so you kind of get an idea. So they want the O box on everything during the coverage. That's not good. Oh, that is it. That is it. That's it. That's it.
I did shoot what's the package? Whatever you want. Okay. That's a long time. It's still go live. If we ever take that down, then we won't have audio. Yeah. I am legally guarding you from the trucks. What's going on? Okay.
Okay, yeah, excellent. And I'll crank this package out.
To our newsroom from North Topsail Beach. Storm surge already a big problem here in the Carolinas. And Brad, you were talking about this earlier, really a big rainmaker here for us.
Yeah, for the Charlotte area, you have to go back and look at some of the history to see what kind of numbers these are, because that's a question I've gotten a lot online. When I show the forecast of how much rain we're going to see, a lot of people ask me, well, what does 6 or 7 inches really look like or feel like in Charlotte? Our forecast is about 4 to 8, but some localized spots could easily 6 to 10 inches. Now, to put this into perspective, I went back and looked, and the biggest rainfall events in 2 days, because this will probably be mainly a 2-day event, and you got to go back to 2008 when we had 8.41 inches of rain. Now, that's a day I remember because that was the remnants of Tropical Storm Faye that moved through the area. So Tropical Storm Faye kind of moved over us, and it was a very weak system, even weaker than Florence, and it dumped over 8 inches of rain. Now, some of those other totals around 6 to 7 inches. So that, to put it in perspective, if we get this much rain in the next 2 days over the weekend, that would be the all-time record for a 2-day rainfall event. The 1-day rainfall event is right around 6 inches. So that's a pretty substantial amount of rain for the Charlotte area. And in all those cases, I can tell you every single one on that list, there was widespread flooding in Charlotte.
That's going to be a big concern for us.
Yeah, our basins, our creeks, and I know the guys over at Stormwater Services, most of our creek basins can only handle about 2 inches per hour. Once you get above that threshold, they start to flood. And with the city being developed more and more, there's a lot of impervious surfaces, so this water runs off real quickly. There's a reason you have stormwater fees on your water bill.
Right.
It's to help kind of build the infrastructure to handle this. And one thing I can tell you, and I know a lot of folks do, is my son is really good at this. We always go clean the storm drains off before we get a big rain. He loves getting his rake out there. He cleans all it off. I had him go around the house today and check all my downspouts and gutters to make sure everything went away. Just something simple you can do to make sure the water gets away from your house and flows a little bit better. Yep.
Huge
Very good,
difference.
Brad. Thank you.
All right, well, people across the Carolinas have been prepping for the storm all week, clearing out grocery stores and hardware store shelves alike. And as Florence gets closer to our area, people are still out searching for supplies.
So we sent NBC Charlotte's Bill McGinty to Lowe's Emergency Command Center. He joins us now live. Bill, which stores have what tonight?
Yeah, that's right, guys. We're here at the Lowe's Emergency Operations Center in Mooresville. This is their headquarters in Mooresville, and they have another one just like this in the Wilkesboro area. And what you're looking at here are teams of people from their operations center, and they are trying to figure out how to move product on the trucks safely around the perimeter of this storm. This is Rick. So tell me exactly what we're looking at here with all the dots.
What we're looking at here is the stores that are under warnings, and we're trying to get the trucks as close as we can so that when the storm passes this way, we can bring the trucks in immediately to stores as soon as we're able to get the re-entry authorization.
All right, Rick, thank you very much. Now, the products on those trucks, generators, pallets of bottled water, and then cleanup supplies, things like shop vacs, trash bags, buckets, mops, things that you're going to need if there is flooding in this area. And based on the weather forecast and what meteorologist Brad Panovich has been talking about, flooding is definitely going to be a problem, at least for some of us. I'm going to send it back to you guys now.
Bill,
Thank you very much. A live look now. This is over Morehead City and Carteret County. You can see the winds picking up there, that rain moving across the camera lens, things just getting started. And as we've heard our reporters say along the coast, there have been thousands of people who have evacuated already.
Yeah, in Carteret County, I've been there for a couple storms. I think they evacuated the whole county for this storm. It's a very low-lying area. People probably haven't been to Morehead City, but you might have been to Atlantic Beach, which is over the causeway. Beautiful beach area, but it's very low-lying, so I'm sure a lot of their area is underwater. They're getting sustained winds of 60 to 70 mile an hour winds in that area, and gusts now up to 80.
Yeah, it's really intense when you look at these pictures. And of course, Brad, we know you'll be keeping everybody posted on social media. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of NBC Charlotte. We'll see you back here at 11.